the OLED Steam Deck, or the ROG Ally X, which of these devices would you get if you had to choose one of them? So there's a lot of debate online which device that you should use, which you should purchase. I've had the Steam Deck probably about 4 months now, and I've honestly only had the ROG Ally X for about a week and a half. So I want to break down this video and give you my honest feedback after using both devices, which one I'd prefer. I'm actually going to choose one device that I think that is best depending on what I use it for. I'm going to break down all the pros and cons of each device, and hopefully by the end of the video you can make a decision for yourself which one is best for you. So I bought the ROG Ally X because Dragon Ball Sparking Zero was coming out, and it just released a few weeks ago, because I was worried that it might have an anti-cheat, so I wouldn't be able to play online with my friends or play ranked matches like Dragon Ball FighterZ. I tried playing FighterZ on the OLED Steam Deck. I tried booting it up a few months later after I initially got it, and it just wouldn't work. The anti-cheat had me worried. And when I was looking it up online before Sparking Zero came out, it didn't look like it'd be a problem to play it. They said that the specs should be playable on the Steam Deck. However, I just wanted to make sure that I could play this game. And I was brainwashed when I had the Steam Deck because I saw the warranty problems that Asus had. And I was like, well, why would I even get this device? Like, the Steam Deck, it's all the way. I was a fanboy. So I had no reason to really look at the LIX. So like I said, I tried playing FighterZ and I used Proton to boot it up. And I had a lot of problems using the anti-cheat, trying to play this game online. I just needed some kind of solution where I wouldn't run into these problems again. Obviously, I love the Steam Deck, and I had no reason to really upgrade. But now that I wanted to take this game serious, or I wanted to do more, I had to really start considering other options, and there's other options on the market. So the ROG Ally X has an LCD screen, and this was the biggest problem that I was worried about. So I booted it up. Basically, you can play pretty much any AAA title you want to, and you may not play at the highest settings, but it will play every game. And I can't say that about the Steam Deck. And I said I was worried about the LCD screen. The screen is not as good as the OLED Steam Deck. That's the biggest thing. It's not as good. But it's not something that's going to make or break once you get used to it. It can play everything better than the Steam Deck, especially games that are like Borderline. So with Dragon Ball Sparking Zero, it can play games like that better. So it just runs better. We're talking, when it runs better, it runs at a higher frame rate. It's got a VRR, which is a variable refresh rate. So the refresh rate of the screen matches the frame rate of the game. And you want to, in that game specifically, you want to play at 60 frames per second. Like, that's what the game's coded to run at. And the Steam Deck, I had problems with it. The Ally X, I was just able to pick it up and play it, and it would match it perfectly. It was actually a great experience because once I dialed in the settings that worked for me, the game played seamlessly, and I never had to think about it again. Another thing is Discord. Discord actually works on the ROG Ally X. I just hop in Discord with my brother. It works perfectly. If I wanted to do it on the Steam Deck, it was kind of like a pain. I had to do it on the back end and install it, and it didn't work perfectly. It has RGB on the sticks. I like the look of that. It's a pretty cool thing. You can modify it and change the way it looks. And the biggest thing about the Ally X that everybody talks about is the battery. And the battery is lit on this thing. It can play super long. You can play damn near any game for a long period of time. I'm getting 2 to 3 hours on AAA games on this thing. That is just incredible. And you can use this thing as a desktop super easy. Like, I was seamlessly able to connect my wireless keyboard and mouse and just run Windows on it. And I took away all the bloatware that was on Windows, initially setting it up, that it just works. It boots up really fast for being a Windows device. Now, you have the option to get an eGPU and add it to the Ally X. I haven't went down that road yet, but I plan on going down that and creating videos around that to see how we can maximize it, because the greatest thing about the Ally X is that it's a portable PC. I'm able to go outside with it. I could go hiking with it. I could take it into public if I decided to take it into public. I could go downstairs and just play the games that I love to play, not worry about whether or not I can play it or not, and have an insane battery life to it. And then being able to attach a GPU to it if I want to sit down in my desktop mode and really crank up the graphics or really push the limits of my gaming experience, I have that option as well. Armory Crate, the front end to be able to select games like Steam or your Xbox Game Pass or choose any of your games, is actually pretty lit. I like it. It's not as seamless as the Steam Deck's OS and being able to play that and choose games, but it is really good. It boots up pretty much right when you get into Windows, because the Ally X basically doesn't have as great a boot up process, but I don't think it's something that you should really worry about if you're considering getting this device. I love being able to go through the settings super easy. It's kind of like the Steam Deck, where it has the button on the Steam Deck right here to pull up the settings, change the TDP. You have 2 buttons to do that, and they're really simple, and I like to be able to go in and change the settings on the fly. In these settings, you can change the wattage, you can change the frame resolution in a snap. So if a game's not running how you want it to, you can drop the resolution. You can actually program and customize these options as well within the Ally X. So it's just extremely customizable. And because you're running Windows, there is a fingerprint option on the Ally X. I actually do like it, but the problem is it only works like 75% of the time. And, you know, sometimes I just have to input a pin. So that little friction kind of sucks. It's cool that it's there, you know, because you are running Windows, but it doesn't work all the time. So it's a pro, but in a way, it's also a con to me. So super awesome battery life, amazing frame rate, can play any game you want to, crazy customizable menus. This thing is just a powerhouse. It's a PC. So those are my main things of what I love about it. But let me go into some of my gripes. Now, the first thing I want to talk about is the weight. This thing is so heavy, dude. Like, it weighs, it's a grip, because you're going to feel the weight. And in a handheld, you don't want it really to weigh that much. It just depends on where you're positioning it, if you're like laying on a bed or if you're sitting back or holding it up. The thing's got a lot of weight to it, and I didn't realize how much that weight was going to affect the gaming experience. It's not a deal breaker, but you're not going to be able to hold it in, you know, challenging situations a long time. This thing's pretty flat, okay? Like, the grips aren't, they're not big. They're pretty flush. So the device doesn't have this crazy grip to it, and that makes it, in a way, kind of uncomfortable to hold, especially for a long period of time. I don't really feel like I got that much grip on it. And I'm only coming from the Steam Deck, because I just feel like the Steam Deck's got a better grip. So because it's heavy and because the grip's not the best, it's not the most comfortable device to me. However, I mainly use a controller, a PlayStation 5 controller, to game on it. If I'm gonna like sit down and play it, attached to a monitor, I'm using a PS5 controller. So that's not a huge gripe to me. And because I have the Steam Deck to compare and contrast, that's why the grip doesn't feel as comfortable, but it's not like a deal breaker for the system. Now, because you are running Windows, it does take a longer time to actually boot up into a game, or to even boot up starting the system up. It's going to take more time than the Steam Deck. It's not as seamless. You got a pin login page or the fingerprint that I mentioned to get into Windows. But once I removed all the bloatware, it actually boots up really quick. And then as soon as you're in Windows, Armory Crate comes in and boots up. And I didn't have a problem with the rest feature either when I'm using the Ally X, because let's say I'm gaming for a little bit, I'm playing Spark and Zero, and then I got something to do. I just put it in rest mode, and then once I boot it up, you got to plug in the fingerprint or you got to put in the pin. But it boosts me right into the game, and I don't have any problems playing games straight from sleep mode. But there is that contingency that you are running Windows and you are getting through there. It's more arduous. You are getting through the Windows boot up process. It's not as seamless as a Steam Deck. I'd say, you know, you spend maybe 10 seconds getting into the game versus the Steam Deck. You can literally just turn it on and you'll be in there in like 3 to 4 seconds. Now, they say the price, you get what you pay for. Yeah, this thing is $800. Okay, it's $800. The Steam Deck OLED is $550, but you do get what you pay for. And the price isn't a big deal to me because I want something that runs games amazing. I want to play any AAA game, and I know that the Ally X can do that. So I'm going to pay for that. It's not like the Steam Deck can do everything that the Ally X can. So the price is a bit of a con, but it's not a make or break for me. And the last thing that was a con for the Ally X is the setup. You're gonna have to go through a big setup process to get this thing booted up. You're probably gonna need to watch a YouTube video. So I watch 128 kilobytes. He has a YouTube channel, shout out to him, where it was like 20 minutes long, and I just went through and did all the setup process, got rid of the bloatware, make sure that all my apps and everything was up to date so that, you know, I have a great experience when booting into Windows. And I use this mainly as a gaming device. It's not like I'm trying to run video editing, even though you can do those things. It's just strictly a gaming device. So you do have to set it up. It's going to take you maybe 20 to 40 minutes to set it up, but it's a one-time thing. All right, let's talk about the Steam Deck now, the OLED Steam Deck. So this thing, that screen. It just looks super crispy. I don't need to go super detailed into that. Y'all know if you're gonna get this, just get the OLED. It's totally worth it. I like how the buttons feel. I feel like these feel better. I feel like the sticks feel better. I feel like the triggers feel better. And I feel like the grip feels better. And I know that the weight feels better. All of these things just feel way more ergonomic on the Steam Deck. It's much better to actually have all these things put together on the Steam Deck. It feels like a better, well-designed device as far as the ergonomics are concerned. And the boot up too. The Steam OS, everything about it feels like a more console-like experience. The Steam Deck feels like Apple. It feels like it just works. And I want to talk about this D-pad. This D-pad, oh my God. I just like the positioning of the D-pad. I didn't know if I was going to like the positioning when I first got this, but the D-pad feels so much better on the Steam Deck, and the buttons just feel so much better. I think the battery life on the Steam Deck's pretty good, but it definitely doesn't compare to the Ally X. I know that it's good enough, especially for what you get. You're gonna get like an hour and a half, maybe 2 hours, depending on the game. We're talking like top level AAA game, but the battery life is good on it. It was pretty simple to install EmuDeck, so I have all the emulators on it. Any of those old school games were super easy to set up because it was just something that I ran when I was in desktop mode on Linux. So that whole experience was amazing too. And the price of it was just way cheaper. $550 was a bit of a stretch when I first wanted to get this. I was like, do I really want to spend a little bit more than half of $1,000 to get this? But honestly, it's totally worth it for what you get in this device. One crazy thing is I tried using an Xbox controller on the Steam Deck and it worked, but then it would disconnect. So I would have some controller connection issues through Bluetooth on the Steam Deck. I just don't know why it would work, so I just stopped using a controller on it. Another con was the power output. So obviously you're not going to get the highest graphics on AAA games or new games. There is definitely a limit, and you can feel the wall from the hardware when you're playing it on certain titles. Even when you're playing old school emulator games, you're gonna feel that wall that you hit of what it can and what it can't do. But you do get what you pay for. You spent $550 to get this device. It's not gonna be able to just beast through everything on the market, especially being a handheld device. And because it runs on Linux, the anti-cheat is not fun. So if you're a person who plays games that runs the anti-cheat, you're just rolling the dice basically. And the biggest con to me was Sparking Zero does not run good. Anybody that said, you can change the frame limit to like 40 frames per second. I don't want to play video games at 40 frames a second. I want to play at 60 frames a second, bare minimum. So it is important to me to play games with higher frame rates. Now that I've talked about the major pros and cons, I just want to break down comparisons between the two devices, what I like about it, what I don't like about it, and then we're going to get into which of the two devices I like better. So the triggers on the Steam Deck, they just feel better. Not to take away from the ROG Ally X's triggers, I think they feel fine. They're just a little bit more rigid. I feel like these are much smoother on the Steam Deck. The fans are great on both. I don't feel like they're overly loud. They never bother me. They're never overpowered when I'm playing a game. It just isn't a problem to me. Even when I'm running 25 watts on the Ally X, it's never a problem. Like I said, the grip on the Ally X is a little weird. I prefer the Steam Deck, but it's not a make or break situation. So I was a PC gamer. I evolved from being a console gamer, and I grew up with handhelds. I used to love the PSP. I modded it back in the day. I also played Game Boy. That was like my first system. I like to be able to pick up the game and play. PC gaming is great when you have time to sit down, but I'm 35 years old now. I have a kid. I don't always have time to just sit down and play a video game in one stationary place. Sometimes I'm on the move and stuff. So being able to have portable PC gaming is ideal for me. So either one of these devices is a must-have. It's essential for my lifestyle. So if you're a person who thinks that your lifestyle would be aided so you can still game, but you just need a little bit more flexibility to turn it on, turn it off. You can play it for 20 minutes, turn it off, and there's not that much time to like boot it up or put on your headset. You have speakers on these. Like you can play the game, you can be social if you're with your partner or they're watching a show, and you can just play it, and the speakers are on. It's not like you have to put headsets in. And ultimately, these are like switches on steroids because they got docks they can sell. You can dock them up and put them anywhere. You can have docks at different places in your house and put that thing on and just play it wherever you're at. Now, let's talk about the winner. What do I prefer? The Steam Deck or the Ally X? Which one is it going to be? Well, for me, what's most important to me right now is the performance. So the ROG Ally X is the winner for me because of the performance. I can beast through and do anything I want to. I can sacrifice maybe waiting a few seconds for Windows to boot up. I can sacrifice a little bit of, I don't like the comfortability as much as a Steam Deck. Maybe it doesn't have the brightest screen in the world, but I can play every game and enjoy it at the frame rate and the performance that I like. For some reason, I just feel like the performance is more important to me. If performance isn't as important to you and you're okay with some games not working and other ones working better on the Steam Deck versus not working, then the Steam Deck might be the way for you. Now, I'd be lying to say that I didn't like the user experience better on the Steam Deck, and I do still play on the Steam Deck. It's just what I'm into right now is the Ally X. So that's my breakdown between the ROG Ally X and the Steam Deck. If I helped you guys make a decision or opened up your eyes, consider subscribing to the channel. Do not be afraid to like it and drop your comments in the comment section. It helps me get into the algorithm. Obviously, the algorithm helps get wider views on YouTube. So, as always, thanks, guys, and I'll see you on the next tech review. Peace.